Okay guys, how you doing today? It's Friday, I don't even know what the date is, 25th I guess, something like that. Really not sure how many days I am. I'll have to check when I post up this video. Should let y'all know how things are going. But here's what we're looking at so far. This right here is our beefsteak tomato, and as you can see, it's really started to spring up there. It's getting tied off really well. I haven't seen a lot of flowers come out on it yet, but I'm thinking that that's probably going to happen anytime soon because I see a lot of them developing. We've got the cucumbers and the green squash are actually in the sites side by side, and you can see all the flowers developing on the cucumbers and the flowers that are developing on the green squash. These are the two plants that I was having the biggest problem with the powdery mildew, and it seems that I have gotten this under control now. I have not seen a sign of the powdery mildew in probably 4 or 5 days since I started the treatment with that neem oil. It's a real light solution of it, and it's working really well. It's an organic solution, so hopefully it's going to help it out, and these plants are going to make it, and I'm going to be able to get some fruit off of them. Down here we've got a Roma tomato. You can see that it's also being tied off and stringing its way across the cage. It's growing really well. I don't have really a lot of complaints about it. It hasn't put any fruit off at all yet. The other one has, but this one has not. But it's got flowers that are coming out on it, so I expect it to start putting some flowers off and putting fruit out pretty soon. The biggest problem I think that I had with a lot of these plants was that I had the nutrients entirely too high, and that really hurt me. I burnt the plants up a little bit, and I found out that you just cannot do this in a system like this. You have to keep the nutrients really low, especially when it's outside, because this sun sends these plants into overdrive, and it will absolutely cook them. And the flowers will drop off, and you will lose all the ground that you're making. Too much newts might seem like a good idea, but it's not. It will not work. This cherry tomato plant over here, as you can see, it's already starting to put off fruit here, making its clusters. There's one here and then one here that's forming already. So this cherry tomato plant's responding well to the lower nutrients. As you can see, I'm having to tie it off across the top. It does not really appreciate being tied off around the bottom. If you look right here, you can see right here, you can see where I broke this thing trying to put it up under the bottom, and it just does not want to do that. It's got a really thick fibrous stalk to it, and so for some reason it does not it does not want to be bent across the bottom like these other tomatoes do. But it doesn't matter. I mean, either over the top or under the bottom. I put it under the bottom because it was just easier to take care of the plants and know that when they're getting too high and whatnot. Now here's the other Roma tomato plant. It's obviously stretching across. It's about halfway across, almost halfway across the screen already. It's probably, I don't know, 2.5 feet tall, I'd say, if it was stretched out, and it's got a lot of branches on it. It's branching out really well with the way that these things are being tied off, and it seems to be doing a pretty good job so far. It's not, like I said, it's got the, it's already starting to bear its fruit as well. This over here is the big boy tomato. It's another hybrid. There's a couple of those in there, and it was one of the plants that got burnt so bad. If you can look, you can see where I really toasted it. But now that I've got the nutrient level back down, it's doing really well. These are the two pepper plants here. This is the jalapeno, and this is where the real mistakes come in. Is that I would not recommend for anyone to grow different vegetables into the same rails like this, because they all require different levels of nutrients, and these pepper plants especially. They're just too much newts on this will cause flower drops real quick. I mean, you can see that they're green and whatnot, but to me they're just not healthy. I mean, you can obviously see there's a flower sitting on top of that bell pepper plant, but I don't know that that's even going to form any fruit on it. They've grown a little bit since I've put them in, but they are by far the slowest growing of all the plants that are in here. This is the yellow squash. The yellow squash has now begun to start putting off its first flowers. It hasn't shown any kind of mildew at all. I've been fortunate in that it's been fairly easy to maintain this plant. It's not been nearly as hard as that green zucchini squash is over there, and the cucumber. But this is also, it was a much smaller plant when I put it in, so it's had a lot of catching up to do to the other ones. Most of these plants were very, very small when I put them in here, and they've had very, very tiny root masses, and I was really afraid that I was going to end up losing all the plants. But it appears to be that they're going to make it. They've made it easily through a month, I would say, and I'm really glad to see that that's happened. And well, we're somewhere around, I guess, week 6 or 7. I don't know. I'll post up the day number when I count it off on when I post this video up. But this is Tib, and this is another of my weekly updates on the Aero system that I've got out here on the patio. And oh, and by the way, all of my my leftover residue from the reservoir I'm pouring off in these petunia plants, and the petunias are going nuts over it. I mean, that's crazy, isn't it? That's just one plant right there. But this is Tib, and I'll get back with you guys next week and let you see how things are going. Hopefully by then I've got some potential fruit showing up on some of these other plants out here.